Well, here we are. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Gilderoy Lockhart, famous expeditionist, famous traveler, wizard, all types of things. I am here to introduce you to Ilvermorny, School for Witchcraft and Wizardry. What's that? I seem to have left an image of myself with the one and only Harry Potter. How did that get there? Let me get rid of this. Oh, look at me. Anyway, let's get on to our introductions. Welcome to Ilvermorny School for Witchcraft and Wizardry. But someone keeps correcting all of my notes. Hmm. I will be the assistant professor teaching the Strange Beast class. Fantastic beasts, if I ever knew them. Anyway, and I'll be the assistant professor with your lead professor, Hagrid. So I'm doing this for an audience of sixth grade students, um, 3 to 5 students. But our first objective for this wonderful adventure we call learning is to prepare for our first annual Halloween ball. It's not the first. They've had hundreds. Well, we'll edit that out. Anyway, you and your friends will be finding dates for the annual Halloween ball. Your guide through this challenging time in your life will be none other than the former Hogwarts defense against the dark arts teacher, Gilderoy Lockhart. That's me, and his lovely assistant subbing in from New Hogwarts School, Hagrid. I need to remove these notes. I'll get to them later. In a post-Dark Lord world, and after the events of 9/11, we've been taking a proactive approach to the dangers of the wizard and muggle, nomage, normie, human world. So Ilvermorny has hired Hagrid and I to teach you about fantastic beasts. The great North American school of magic was founded in the 17th century. It stands at the highest peak of Mount Greylock, where it's concealed from the non-magic gaze by a variety of powerful enchantments, which sometimes manifest in a wreath of misty cloud. So, let's get into a little bit more of Ilvermorny history. I am sure you're all excited to learn a little bit more about me, but let's take time to think about the little people who started this school. Where did we come from? Where do we go from here? Where did I come from? And other things you should know. Ilvermorny was founded sometime around 1624 in the early 17th century. Iseult Sayre was an Irish witch who fled to the New World from her aunt whatever. I'll edit that out. Dub it over with something. A relative of Salazar Slytherin, but that's not important anymore. She eventually saved two young wizards named Chadwick and Webster Boot and adopted them. Eventually, they met James Stewart, who was a nomad stonemason. That's how you spell nomad. Hmm. Note to self: fix it later. Who went on who went to find them when he was worried that the Boot children did not return to their settlement. They befriended him and Iseult, and James fell in love. They decided to make a small cottage in the place of the shelter which Iseult named Ilvermorny, in honor of her childhood home in Ireland. Being from Britain, which is where the best schools are, Iseult, Chadwick, and Webster knew about Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and they had hoped that they could attend before it was destroyed. Iseult was hoped they could have Iseult was stopped from attending by her evil stepmother. While Chadwick and Webster's late parents had moved to the New World by the time they were 11, when Chadwick's 11th birthday was approaching, Iseult promised they could set up their own magic school at Ilvermorny. Isolde began teaching the boot children how to use their magic and even made wands for them with James. The children then came up with an idea of creating their own houses, with Chadwick selecting Thunderbird, Webster selecting Wampus. Isolde created Horned Serpent, not very creative, while James created Puckwudgie, in honor of an old friend of Isolde's, William the Puckwudgie. James then became known as No. What? I wrote that? James then became the first known No-Maj to found a wizarding school? Is that true, Elizabeth? Eventually, the school took on new students who were Native Americans of the Wampanoag. Whatever, doesn't matter, their tribe doesn't exist anymore. They shared their knowledge of magic in return for wands, which seemed like a pretty solid trade off at the time. By 1634, Ilvermorny had enough students to start inter-house competitions. Originally, it was only a day school, but it became a boarding school over time. One day, Gormalith Gaunt heard about the school when its reputation grew. At that time, only Isolt, James, Chadwick, Webster, and the young daughters of Isolt and James, Ryan, not important, were living at the school. Whatever her name is, decided to travel her evil behind over and get revenge and steal the children of the person who founded the school by using a sleeping spell from afar and placed Isolt and James in a deep sleep. That wouldn't have happened to me. I protect myself with all manner of enchantments. Sometimes I sleep with both eyes open, and using a little bit of alchemy, I can create four eyes. But this isn't about me. This is about the founders of Ilvermorny. Blah, blah, blah. She came, blah, blah, blah. You sleep. She did not know Chadwick and Webster also lived there, which is kind of an oversight. You would think, you would think, I mean, they have a house. Well, anyway, they woke up and took place in a duel with Gormalith. Am I saying it right? I'm going to go with it. Gormalith. Until Isolt and James were awoken by their daughters, crying and joined them. The duel wrecked part of the school until they were saved by William the Puckwudgie, who killed Gormalith with a poison arrow. So we're saying that the Puckwudgie was real? I mean, I've seen one, but it is? Oh, my. Listen, where are they? Keep them away from me. They have arrows. The cottage eventually became a granite castle by the 18th century in the hope of keeping the school secret from No-Majs. It was concealed by several enchantments which made it look like a misty cloud. Most of this was because of the Salem witch trials. As you know, you Americans are quite dull-witted. Sometime in the 18th century, Dorcas Twelvetrees told No-Maj Bartholomew Dorcas? Oh, her name is Dorcas. That's a bad name. Her parents did not love her. Anyway, Dorcas Twelvetrees told No-Maj Bartholomew Barebone. Oh, oh my gosh. Cut that out. Where Ilvermorny could be found. Bartholomew then revealed he was a scourer, and he told other No-Majs, which led to the greatest breach of the international state statute of secrecy ever. By the 20th century, Ilvermorny was considered to be one of the greatest magical schools in the world, but sadly, they didn't get the great Harry Potter. I had him as a student once. He was one of my biggest fans. I taught him everything he knows to this day. That's actually in the wiki. Don't fact check me. All right. Your studies this semester will include wizardry, combat prowess, religious studies, and subterfuge. Wizardry. It's very common to rely on knowledge of the magical arts to solve your problems, and it should be your last resort. That was in my famous book, Magical Me, wrote that in 1993, before the Great Wizarding War. You should always remain away from melee combat. Your little dainty, smart arms are not good for the smarts of a warrior. And now that smarts. You only have a few major spells you can cast each day before you're too exhausted to hold on, so hold on to them. Rely on your minor spells, and don't lick everything. I've seen an awful lot of wizards die because they lick something, just to see what it tastes like. It happens. Don't look like that. Moving on. Combat prowess. You are a fighter, and fighting can be its own type of magic. I'm going to be practically honest. I look forward to trying to teach you everything I know. Where is that picture, Elizabeth? Religious studies. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I wrote that in my book, Year with the Yeti. I learned an awful lot from that magical creature, him and his wife, Bigfoot. You know why they call her Bigfoot? You know? I could tell you, but it's a long story. Anyway, Americans are deeply religious dullards, particularly that of the natives and the Mormons. You will challenge this native divinity into something useful. If you discover a tool for building community, report that finding to me alone. It's too dangerous for the other teachers. Your role will be as a support caster, healing and dealing with the undead and whatnot. Simple work. For subterfuge, your role is to help with finding rare treasures by stealing them, discovering new paths to success by picking the locked doors, and putting others in a place to succeed by flanking the enemy, stabbing them up. Ah, good times. What you won't do, as a person who practices subterfuge, is break me or anyone else. I was told by Hagrid that my auditions were unacceptable. It struck me. It struck me about 5 times. Picking a house. So, unlike Gryffindor, where you are picked because of your personality, here at Ilvermorny, you're chosen based off of your personality, actually. But it's different, you see. You can be a scholar, a healer, an adventurer, or a warrior. And of course, you're wondering, what would an adventurer want to do with a school? It seems awful stifling. Well, in the American culture, yes. Anyway, the horned serpent, right here, the puckwudgie, the thunderbird, and the wampus. The horned serpent represents the scholar. The puckwudgie represents the healer. We're going to see a lot of religious people there. The occultist, the thunderbird, represents the adventurer in all of us. And the wampus represents the warrior in all of us. Now, when you do your house choosing, you may be called by two houses at once. Very rarely three, but not likely you'll ever get four. That would only happen to the special ones. Anyway, when I came here, I was approached by all four. Believe it. Anyway, but it's up to you to choose. Moving on. Your uniform. The robes at Ilvermorny are blue and cranberry. Blue for Isolt Sayer's love of Ravenclaw at Hogwarts, and cranberry for James Stewart's love of cranberry pie. But I will be wearing gold. Alright, our procedure going forward. We'll do introductions, we'll gather girls for dates for the dance. You'll dress your best, you'll be taught how to dance, and you'll learn the charm of the beast inside. Your homework, now that we're preparing you for Halloween Ball, I need you to be prepared to write a 5-page essay on one of these subjects, well, both actually. Where was I before I took this course? Also, how has Lockhart saved me from my lonely, pitiful life? And as for Hagrid's homework, he has written, take a picture in front of the Pugwudgie at the ballroom with your date and disregard. No, we're not going to do the second part. The essay is actually quite important. Right. So you have all you need. I can't wait to see you in class. Oh, can't wait to see you in class. And that is that on that.